And I and you, if you call in, we're all here to discuss what happened and why, what we think about it, what we think the future holds for us after these recent political developments. Do you have some opening comments?
Well, it is very, it is sad to me that these Republicans, these politicians that want to take away a lot of services for poor people, such as social security, Medicare, many services for poor people, and many, I would say, rights. You have the right to health care. You have the right to receive food assistance if you are poor. You have the right to social security if you work all your life. And this party, the Republican Party, the politicians, the senators and state representatives, they want to take away all these rights. People want through the years fighting for these rights, fighting for social security, fighting for health care, fighting for food stamps,
Yeah, actually, I think that that's entirely true. I mean, these are things that people have come to expect increasingly since the 1930s. Of course, the 1929 economic catastrophe exposed many people to incredible hardships, food shortages. There was actually starvation in the United States to some degree. There was 25% unemployment. There was, at that time, no Social Security. People were desperate, and the United States came close to closer than it ever has to a kind of populist communist revolution at that time. There were definite communist activities, very left-wing socialist activities, a lot of labor unrest, and out of that came the Franklin Roosevelt administration and the reforms in providing public assistance, what people call welfare, Social Security for the first time, and then eventually in the years after World War II came Medicaid, Medicare, all sorts of things that the Republicans have absolutely despised ever since they were created and have always dreamed of destroying. And every time that people elect these majorities, I think that they are flirting with the possibility that the Republicans will at some point achieve their dream. Also, the Republicans despise, detest unions. They despise the teachers' unions, and of course that may play into their attacks on public school systems. And here in Michigan, unions in general have been under attack. We've become a right-to-work state, so expect more of the same, I'd say. And this is a call-in show, and we are at 459-4881. And tonight, for this special political autopsy, we will be open pretty much throughout the entire show from this point forward. So if you feel like calling in and telling us what you think about what happened or what you think about what we think about what happened, go ahead and give us a call. 459-4881. And Pablo.
So what happened, Mark? How do you explain that all these people, millions of people, voting against themselves, Because according to my knowledge, 1% controls most of the wealth in this country, And the rest is surviving, The minimum wage is less than $8, and Republicans oppose increasing the minimum wage.
Well,
what's going on? what happened to you people? Like you're voting against your own welfare, your own
Interests.
well-being. You know, like
Yeah, obviously, the Republicans didn't make these political gains by having the 1% vote over and over again, but they listened to these simplified versions of reality that push all of their prejudice buttons, their various things that they like to hear and the way they like to hear them. And I think people turn off their minds and they forget, oh yeah, the unions, got me these higher wages in the job that I used to have, and they weren't so bad after all, and they forget that, oh yeah, when I lost my job or when my cousin lost my job, there was some kind of social safety net to fall back on. He didn't have to go starving or feed off of
Deer.
the neighbors or hunt deer for life itself.
so many. I mean, I'm from Mexico, and we don't have Social Security. We don't have we have a phone call.
Hello, Dave. Go ahead with your question or your comment, Dave. Go ahead. Dave, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to make a comment. People are just not turning out to vote, and the problem is that they don't realize who they elected. These people are interested only in cutting Social Security, cutting Medicare. They do not care about the average person. And yet we got people that just don't go out and vote, and we are going to pay a dear price for this, for the average person or the Democrats. We're going to pay dearly, and the Republicans are going to continue to just destroy the middle class. That's my comment tonight.
Thank you,
People
Dave.
got to wake up, and they got to vote. If they don't blame anybody about the South. And so, but it's going to happen, and you could see it happen. And people will not do anything. They're too lazy to get out to vote. They won't help the polls. They won't do anything, the majority of people. And that's what they're getting. So, till people change their minds, that's the way it's going to be. That's my comment tonight.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Do you have a comment on Dave's comment?
Well, unfortunately, what he's saying is true. People don't care about politics. I'm a journalist, and I talk to a lot of people on the street. Not every day, but once in a while, I talk to people, and they just say, "No, I don't vote because nothing is gonna change." My vote doesn't count. I mean, that's for.
And I think they're absolutely wrong, and I think that people should, personally, Dave, I think that people should look at it as if it were a parliamentary system. I know that we're all taught that and of course we don't have a parliamentary system, but once you've elected a president, you can't just sit at home and expect that when the president loses his majorities, that he'll be able to do anything, or that your country will be secure, that there'll actually be government moving in a positive direction. You have to vote according to a party. This whole idea of, oh, I'm an independent, I just vote for the right person, I think people have got to wake up and realize that you need to think in terms of strategic party politics, because that's what the Republicans do. We've got another caller, Rick. Rick, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Rick. Your question, comment. Old friend Rick, go ahead.
Yeah, I remember it was about 20 years ago when we had that big Republican landslide in 1994 when I first joined you folks. What's the other gentleman's name, by the way?
Pablo Bello?
Pablo?
Yes.
Oh, nice to see you, Pablo. Anyway.
Nice to meet you over the phone. No? Nice to.
Well, Mark, I tell you, I guess there's not much to be said, of course. I think part of this problem, what happened yesterday, is that not enough Democrats turned out. They don't understand this political system in a holistic way, as you just said. Of course, you know, the right-wing Christian types, I guess, think GOP stands for God's own party. You've got the gun nuts, you know, who think that only Republicans can protect their rights. And, of course, Wall Street will almost always vote Republican, except they'll put enough money on the other horse, you know, the Democrats, to cover their bets as well. But there's just a lot of apathy out there, and people make these cliche statements like, oh, they're all crooks, or they're all the same, or my vote doesn't count, and blah, 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 and I don't want to vote. It just encourages them and all that, you know. And although I would say that the Democrats, and I think you both would probably agree with me, are not exactly a walk in the park at all times either. Certainly between the two major parties, they are certainly more in touch with the needs of the working class and the poor and so forth, the middle class. But, you know, if you're going to have people, and I've actually met people that literally are going through garbage dumps looking for their food for the day, and these people will vote Republican because they've got a lot of what I call redneck ideas, you know. They don't like the black guy in the White House. They don't like all the Hispanics coming here to steal their jobs, you know, and I'll put the word "their" in quotes. I even said to a guy one time, I said, what do you mean your job? I said, does that job have your name on it? I said, you do realize, of course, I said that a lot of these Hispanics that come into this country are frankly doing a lot of work that blacks and whites don't want to do because they think they're above that, you know. So there's a lot of crazy ideas that people have, and they vote their prejudices. They don't really look at this intellectually, and I don't know what we can do, you know, because liberals, like you two guys, of course, and of course the liberals on radio and TV, like Tom Hartman and Keith Olbermann, of course, who lost his job, and, you know, Rachel Maddow, Lawrence O'Donnell, you can go down the list. But the problem is those folks are all using intellectual arguments. And that kind of goes over the head of most people. They respond to the red meat that Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh and Bill O'Reilly throw out there, you know. They call Obama a failure. Now look at what Obama's done. 9/11, the worst terrorist attack in our history, occurred on George Bush's watch. Who killed bin Laden or gave the order for it? It was Obama. The stock market's through the roof. Corporate profits through the roof. Taxes on rich people, billionaires and millionaires, at historically low levels. Gas prices are coming down. I don't know how many consecutive months we've had of job growth. You know, and on and on. There's many different indicators, and they say that Obama and the Democrats didn't emphasize this enough. I think they did. But people just aren't listening, and if people don't listen, what can we do as progressives, you know? Sorry if I got a little long-winded there, but it just kind of frustrates me that people basically, a lot of them vote against their own economic interest.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I see that all the time. People are not actually looking at what is happening in the country, exactly who the real donors to the Republican Party are, what kind of policies they're really looking toward, and people do end up voting on these very simplified emotional issues, and it's as if they don't want to look closely at what's really happening. The economy's been leaking away for years, and this is something that I think that Obama and the Democrats will talk about in a presidential election year, and then unfortunately they back off, and you know, the issue goes underground, and that's a red meat issue. People lost their jobs to the leaking away of the economy to China, and that is a huge issue that remains untapped, and that at least should be something that could break through this haze of weak-minded, you know, emotional issue prejudice that the Republicans are able to manipulate in order to get people to vote against their interests.
Yeah, they even bring up things like Ebola, like that's Obama's fault, or ISIS, you know, that's Obama's fault that they exist. I mean, terrorism and Ebola never existed before Obama came into office, did they? Well, of course, you know, I'm being facetious there, but I mean, people can just look at every little thing, you know. Oh, there's the IRS scandal. There's
what's Obama supposed to be? Some kind of micromanager of the Centers for Disease Control or something? It's absurd. I mean, they would be jumping on him if he did that, you know, and calling him ridiculous.
So, you know, we live in a democracy, and unfortunately, democracy means people have the right to be stupid, you know, and of course, a lot of stupid people don't even vote, and it's probably good that they don't, but O'Reilly on Fox is talking about how stupid the American people are. But of course, what he means by that is they elected Obama twice, they elected Al Franken twice now, because that's a personal grudge he has against Franken, so I'm glad Franken got reelected, and he thought that because there was Democratic control in the Senate, you know, that proves how stupid people are. Well, he can't use that anymore. But I agree with O'Reilly, but for a different reason. I don't know how anybody, unless they're a millionaire or a billionaire, it amazes me when I see middle class or poor people vote Republican. When I see gay people, there aren't many, vote Republican, or blacks vote Republican, and on and on. And the reason I say this is not because I'm being elitist and say they don't know what they're doing, but these groups have all been demonized by the Republicans to win elections. And you see a few people, not many, from those groups actually vote Republican. And I just don't really understand that.
Yeah, as you and I have talked about this before, it's like the chickens voting
I was going to say
Colonel
that.
Sanders to be president or something.
You know who said that? It was
Who?
it was J.C. Watts, the black congressman from Oklahoma, used to be the Oklahoma quarterback.
Oh, okay.
His own father said that, and I think
It's
he was
true.
probably referring to his own son, you know. But the problem is that I was talking to another friend of mine about this earlier today. You know, I think unfortunately a lot of young blacks, for instance, don't realize the great work and sacrifices that people like Dr. King made. You know, he gave his life for the cause, and I think people are, like they say, we stand on the shoulders of giants, you know, and people just don't understand, you know. And you would think that with a black president in there, they would only vote for him in presidential years, but they should realize that he needs a Congress he can work with, and they didn't give it to him last
People
night.
need to turn out to vote, and I think that we'll find that a lot of Democrats became disheartened and didn't come out to vote. And you know, my many friends of mine will say, well, you know, the two parties are so similar, you know, what difference does it make? I really very much disagree with that. I think the two parties have grown further and further apart. The Republicans have gone nuts. They've gone completely right-wing, fascistically bizarre, and the Democrats have had to say, hey, you know, we can't follow these people in their rightward direction anymore, and people
Well,
aren't electing those kind of Democrats anymore.
I just picked up a book recently written by Richard Norton Smith, a fellow who's affiliated with the Ford Museum, or was, and he wrote a book on Nelson Rockefeller, and I'm a little bit older than both of you, I think. I remember the Nelson Rockefeller, John Lindsay, Charles Percy, Edward Brooke, Dwight Eisenhower, for crying out loud, even Nixon, you know. Nixon was pro-choice, so was Jerry Ford. I just don't know what has happened to the Republican Party that has been captured, and I won't say Nazi because that's a little too extreme, but I think fascist in the sense of, and you know this, Mark.
It's a fascist drift, I would say.
Yeah, the word fascist doesn't necessarily mean there's a bunch of jackbooted thugs marching into other countries and setting up concentration
It's
camps.
a kind of attitude, a
Well, it's that,
perspective.
But it's the marriage of government with corporations. That's what Mussolini did, and that's what's happening in our country. We got this Citizens United decision by the Supreme Court. It means people like the Koch brothers could just give unlimited money to advance. And each one of these brothers, by the way, is worth $40 billion, and apparently it's not enough.
With a B. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, and not only do they want to reduce their taxes, you know, when they on that vast amount of wealth, but in so doing, they also want to eliminate programs that help the middle class and the poor. So not only do they want to make themselves richer, they want to impoverish the people below them. It's kind of like the old idea of what some fundamentalist Christians used to say, you know, half the joy of being in heaven is seeing the tormented souls in hell. You know, and I sort of think that's kind of an analogy there, you know, that they not only want to be rich, but they want to see these poor people get even
It's like
poorer.
they want to destroy this country, these Republicans, right?
I have.
I mean, like the middle class. I mean, the middle class from the United States is well known all over the world. You know, like.
And all over the world, people are just amazed to see the middle class faltering in the United States. They're saying, what the hell is going on in the U.S.? the middle class is allowing itself to be destroyed, and we thought the U.S. was this different kind of place where that sort of thing wouldn't happen, where the people wouldn't put up with that.
The middle class of the United States used to be the envy of the world, you know. Everyone see the middle class of the United States like the example to follow, but it seems like the middle class is less and less, so maybe it's gone now?
It is going, and you could say that I think one could argue that this is no longer a middle-class country. And I think that the thing that has happened is that in the 1960s, the early 70s, the wealthy people had a reaction. They said, whoa, you know, my God, we almost just had a revolution. What the hell is going on? These people are dangerous, by which they meant the American people. The American people were taking their democracy seriously, and they needed to strike back and strike hard to destroy the American people. I think that the American people have become a target by these people who would rather see the powerful, democratic middle class of the United States disempowered. Have its wealth shrunken away, its economy leaked away because they were, in their democracy, a danger to the wealthy people with their status, their outsized, outproportioned influence on politics through their wealth. That was in danger by democracy itself, and crush! That's what happened. That's what I think.
Like today I was on Facebook, and there was a comment about Justin Amash, He's Republican, he's libertarian. I say, well, he hates government, but he works in the government, right? And then somebody replies, well, he doesn't really hate government. He hates big government. I mean, it's just absurd. Their ideas are just, this guy is just a demagogue.
I think it is an absurd and dangerous thing in our society.
Absurdity, their ideas, yeah, I hate government, but no, I'm not against government. I'm against a big government.
Well,
it's just, who's gonna clean the streets when there is these big storms in winter?
I think it's even scarier than that, Pablo, because Americans always were extremely proud of their self-government, of their democracy, of their constitution. And these sorts of Republicans, I think, are training us to despise our democracy, to despise our constitution, to despise government. But we are the government. That's the idea.
He says he respects the Constitution, but the Constitution says we have the right to be happy, and pursue happiness and be free. How are you going to be happy and pursue? How are you going to be free and pursue happiness with less than $8 per hour?
Well, Justin Amash, of course, is a...
Oh, well,
so
we got
absurd.
a comment here. What's that, Rick?
I was going to say that Justin Amash, of course, is a rich guy, lives in Cascade.
He's a demagogue, man.
He and his brother both inherited money from their dad, and he doesn't know what it's like to be even middle class, let alone poor. So when he talks about, well, the Constitution doesn't say certain things, and he never actually said these words, but he basically thinks probably things like unemployment insurance and Social Security are not necessary. Everybody should inherit their money like he did. I'm just being facetious here, but these people are really out of touch. This Rick Scott in Florida, the governor who won re-election, and there was a couple of other ones they were mentioning on one of the network shows, or cable shows, and it's unfortunate, like you said, Mark. There's too many chickens voting for Colonel Sanders for whatever reason, And if you go back to the '60s, which you mentioned there. When all the ferment occurred, and I remember 1968 was a pretty turbulent year. Of course, John Kennedy was killed in '63, and then in '68, within 2 months, Dr. King and Robert Kennedy were assassinated. And I remember all the talk, about how the extreme left wing was threatening our country and everything. And I said to a friend of mine, I said, if that's true, how come all the people that are being killed are progressives, And we can see what was happening. And I don't mean to say that Dr. King or the Kennedy brothers were anywhere near perfect. They were all flawed human beings, as we all are. But I think they at least said enough things and epitomized enough of at least the aspirations of the downtrodden, the middle class and the working class and the poor. And there was some hope, you know, and even Nixon, who eventually became president. If you look at Richard Nixon's record, aside from Watergate and aside from his rhetoric, the guy was almost a progressive.
Well, he was doing all sorts of, he was encouraging and signing all sorts of legislation,
Yeah.
even initiating a lot of it that was very pro-environmental, you know, the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act.
was
But you have to
Choice?
take in consideration that
there were protests going on.
there was big protests against the war. In
Well,
people who
environmental
support
protests.
environmental protests, and right now we have the zombie day, you know, when people go to the street dressed as a zombie, you know, that's their big demonstration of the,
Yeah,
our youth, you
You
know.
know, if enough people would vote
they
for
go to
people,
the streets to
yeah, it's a kind
dress
of,
like a zombie.
it's sort of
the big.
it's like a nihilist, you know, sort of being, you know,
This
where
is their big
you be a
demonstration
zombie-ing,
about-
yeah.
yeah, I'm
themselves,
not really
these
for a lot of
zombies,
street
no?
theater on either side, you know, left wing or right wing.
You know, Rick, the thing that I think is very ironic is that all these Tea Party types, you know, started screaming in that summer of screaming. The
2010?
what was it? Was the first full summer of well, it was the first summer of Obama's presidency. There was all of this socialism, and people were swinging, you know, monkeys and gallows and things, and shouting out nasty words about black people, you know, focusing on Obama.
You know,
And-
this Obamacare thing, as it's written, and I don't know if it's exactly that way, but it's basically the same plan. The Heritage Foundation, Mitt Romney, Bob Dole, Richard Nixon, Newt Gingrich.
But my
Especially the individual
point that I
mandate,
wanted to get at is that people don't realize that these grassroots things like the Tea Party or the Citizens for Economic Freedom or whatever you want to call these things and whatever they're
Freedom
called.
Works.
Yeah, all these things are astroturf. I mean, they're the Koch brothers. They're these very wealthy people, and
Behind-
only a handful of them, you know, like.
There is these billionaires paying all these clowns.
And then they create these groups,
Well-
pretending to be a group, and then they become groups, and people think they're part of some kind of democratic movement.
Well, Lenin used to-
and yet these people's interest is in leaking away your economy,
Right. Well, Lenin used-
sending it to China, and disenfranchising you from influence on your government because they think that you're the danger.
Right. Lenin used to talk about useful idiots, and he was talking about useful idiots on the left. But these people are, like you said, Mark, you didn't use the term, but they're basically useful idiots of the right. These working class people that have been co-opted by the Koch brothers and their front groups.
I went to this a few months ago. There was a demonstration of three party people in one of the one of the bridges, the freeway. There was
Overpass?
three people overpass. Three people like you know, one of them was like a homeless man, like smelly and dirty, like long hair, and the other two women, like, you know, you just see. I mean, no disrespect for these people, man, but obviously they are manipulated by someone, and like, how can you support the Tea Party when obviously you are in this economic situation, you know, like. What are you gonna gain from this? I mean, the millionaires are gonna come and say, "Oh, here, $10,000, go and buy a car and new furniture, and food." Like, it's just delusional, no? To think that the Koch brothers or Justin Amash or Dick Cheney or George Bush is gonna come and help you. You know,
Yeah.
it's just insane, no? Like. Snyder is gonna come and help you. You know? I mean, how? You know?
And why? Why would they? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, they are against you, against poor people. They want to take away your health care. They want to take away your social security. They're gonna take away any means that you can get help, because they want that money for the millionaires, right?
And they're training you to hate your government. Oh, I hate government. I hate big government. I hate Washington. What are they saying? Washington is the capital of the country. Washington is the seat of government. If people are trained to hate it, they're being alienated from the thing that the Constitution says they're supposed to control. That's
right,
ridiculous.
If Justin Amash hates government, he shouldn't be in Congress. I mean, can you think of any other profession where people join it? I mean, does somebody become a surgeon or a lawyer? I mean,
it's like self-hatred of the people for themselves to hate the government. That's what I think people are being trained to do. They're being trained to
He hates big government.
What I'm saying is, would a
he doesn't hate government. He hates big government.
So why isn't he running for the mayor of some village?
How ridiculous is that? Like the guy is in a public office.
Well, let's find a really little government, like in some hamlet.
What kind of government do you want? Like a small government? What is a small government?
No, it's just absurd. It's just absurd talk that triggers the emotional buttons. People are being trained to exit politics and to just do what these people want until they take away that right to even be involved.
I wanna ask to Justin Amash, who's gonna clean the streets with these big storms?
It's not gonna be him.
In winter, if he
I doubt if that guy's ever done a day's work in his life.
All these services, like who's if there is an epidemic that I hope, which is this hysteria about Ebola, who's going to control all these hospitals? Who's going to coordinate services? Because to control an epidemic, you need people, trained people, experts.
Government.
People.
The Centers for Disease Control is government.
Who's gonna control an epidemic if you cut all the services?
This is another thing. Government has regulations that really help people in terms of environmental quality and in terms of food safety, in terms of regulating trade, all sorts of things that government does that if we get rid of it, who benefits? Well, the wealthy benefit, the people suffer.
Well, yeah, they can
society suffers as a whole.
They can live in their gated communities. They can hire their own police force. They could probably hire their own fire department. But you know what epitomizes this more than anything, Mark, and maybe you remember this a few years back when some woman was marching at a Tea Party rally, and she had a sign that says, "Government, keep your hands off my Medicare." Now, of course, the absurdity of that is, of course, Medicare is a government program. But they don't see that.
But the theme here is the elections, right? I mean, what is going to happen now, Mark? I mean, like, Republicans are going to start cutting services?
Well,
what is going to happen?
The Republicans are going to do everything they can for 2 years to embarrass the president, try and make him look ridiculous, not cooperate, or if they can, get something out of him. But long term, they're going to try and get their own president in. And if they retain both of these, houses of Congress and have a president, well, watch out. Then, the big agenda comes in. The agenda to get rid of the social programs that came in with the New Deal to further the war against the American people that we've been talking about. And we have another caller, Rick. Thanks for your call.
Okay, thank you.
And we will get to this larger question and the question of immigration reform and what happens to that after we take this call from Cindy. Cindy, hello. Your question, your comment. Welcome to OSE Can You See? Cindy.
Oh, thanks for hosting the show tonight. Really glad you guys are able to discuss this very hot topic.
What's your question or comment, Cindy?
My question tonight is, I have a lot of concern about immigration reform, and to be really honest with you, I feel like a lot of people spend way too much time playing on their handheld devices, playing Candy Crush and Mafia Wars, and they're just really not paying attention to the real issues about what's going on in the world around them. it makes me wonder how many people actually have friends or family that can't get a driver's license because of their immigration status, and how much this hurts farmers. But yet people voted for Ruth Johnson for Secretary of State. She was sued by a civil rights attorney for not allowing DREAM Act students to get their driver's license. And those are students that are now actually purchasing houses because they're getting their green cards renewed. So I just don't understand the choices people have made. I believe that one of my family members voted Republican, and for the life of me, I couldn't understand why. And she keeps saying that, the government wants to take away her rights and kill the Christians and take over the world. But the only thing I see the Republican Party doing is to have a vendetta against everyone else's rights. So if you're gay, African American, the police can just shoot your unarmed kids, and if you're an immigrant without papers, they round people up like cattle, and that's just considered A-okay with them. That's the lawful thing to do. Like, what the hell's going on here? Maybe you guys can tell me about that.
Well, I would like to tell you, Cindy, thank you for calling. My name is Pablo Bello. President Obama made an announcement today after, today was the announcement. He said that at the end of the year, we take whenever lawful actions are available to pass an immigration reform. It's my understanding that he's going to help the children on the border. Like right now,
The ones who came over already?
there are thousands of children on detention centers right now who came over the border from Central America, fleeing the incredible violence created by the drug trafficking, by the drugs, all the drug use in United States. Unfortunately, many U.S. citizens are consuming drugs, and all this money goes to feed to narco traffickers in Mexico and Central America, and they are terrorizing Mexicans, Hondurans, Guatemalans, all these countries where the drugs had to come from Colombia, the cocaine traffic. They had to come from Colombia, and they go through Honduras, Guatemala, Mexico, and somebody is controlling all these routes, and they are getting paid billions of dollars to control these routes, and they terrorize Mexicans, they terrorize Guatemalans, they terrorize Honduras. So all these children, they are in detention centers. They are fleeing the violence created by people who use drugs, by the money. The money they spend buying marijuana, illegally, of course, cocaine, heroin. All this money goes to narco traffickers who buy weapons and terrorize Mexicans, terrorize Guatemalans, terrorize Honduran people from Honduras. And all these children are escaping violence. They come over the border. They are arrested by immigration center, and thousands of them are in detention centers. They want a permit to live in the United States. They are fleeing violence, and so President Obama announced today that he's gonna have some kind of immigration reform, and that's what I hear a few months ago, that he's willing to help these children
By
on the
allowing
detention
them
center.
to remain in the United
And
States?
probably young people who came to the United States when they were less than 16 years old, like children who came, who their parents brought these children, and now they are here. They are adults. They're maybe 20 years, 25 years old, and they don't have any papers, documents to go to school.
These are the so-called dreamers.
The dreamers, which some of them took advantage of the executive order from the White House, who allows them to get a work permit, and many of them are in school right now. They are in college. They are part of this society, and they are contributing. And they are in college, and they wanna contribute to this country. You know, they wanna be lawyers, they wanna be doctors, they wanna be engineers. And let me tell you, some of them, they are very brilliant. You know, they have excellent grades, and many of them are getting scholarships, and many of them they're in college right now. I have a friend who was undocumented, who was one of the dreamers, and now she's in college. She's encouraged by this executive order, and she's taking classes in City College, Grand Rapids. What else? But let me tell you, like what Mitch McConnell.
Mitch McConnell,
The
Kentucky
senator.
Yeah, he's the Senate leader now.
When the President Obama say, you know, I'm willing to order an executive order to have an immigration reform, he say that is like waving a red flag to a bull. You know, that's the kind of dialogue he's willing to have with the senator of Kentucky, Mitch McConnell. You know? It's you know, I mean, this is the party, this is the senators and the representatives. They were obstructing laws. They were proposals.
Oh,
It's
am I
been
able to
said
make a
that,
comment really quick?
What's that, Cindy?
Oh, I just wanted to make a comment really quick.
Okay.
I mean, President Obama, the way that I understand, he's able to pass executive order. That means people will not be deported, but they won't essentially have the right to go back and forth between their home country and here. So many people have been here 20 years, and their parents have aged, and they're like, you know, getting to that point where their parents could pass away in their home country, and it leaves so many families devastated that, you know, even Dreamer students are separated sometimes from their parents, and they have a working permit. They're going to buy homes here, but they still don't have that full opportunity of a green card to pass back and forth.
Well,
And
that would have to wait
right.
another 2 years at least, I guess, because
right.
because of the
It's
political
like
situation.
basically almost like another 4-year wait, because the House and the Senate are both controlled by Republicans. And for the life of me, I don't understand why they just don't value all families like their value system states. Oh, you know, we're so about our Bibles and our belief systems, but when it comes to immigrants and their families, or even mixed status families where half of the family has papers and half don't, it just seems like they're so ready to dismiss our families and throw us under the bus. You know, I'm just completely disappointed in the way the elections have turned out, and I just don't think people are really paying attention to all the family destruction. Today, a lady went to court in Detroit, and she had a 5 and a 7-year-old, and just over the weekend, her husband was detained, and you know, it was over an issue with calling the police for help. I mean, what's happening to our communities, and they're getting destroyed, and within 1 week the person has deportation orders, and you know, he had a misdemeanor offense over 20 years ago. I mean, what's going on? And that delayed action by Obama is just costing us 1,200 families a day to be separated, and I just really wish the voters, you know, need to think about all those children. And I just don't think that they cared about any kids when they went to the polls this time. But thanks for taking my call.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, Cindy. Well, I just want to comment, Mark, like, this is what Republicans do. They exploit the fear of the people, you know. they say the immigrants are taking their jobs. They said poor people are taking advantage of welfare, of food stamps. A few days ago, I saw a report in one of the news channels here in Grand Rapids about people taking advantage of food stamps. Like, I mean, it's just ridiculous. Like, I mean, how many people take advantage of food stamps? Like 3 people, 4 people from thousands of people that are receiving food stamps?
You know, that is, Pablo, just like the Republicans making an emotional issue that benefits them politically by saying, oh, we need everyone to have their ID because
I know it's like the
there will
media,
be election fraud.
The local media is like the accomplice of these politicians, you know, like why they don't go and investigate Blackwater, you know. We have this guy from Holland, Eric Prince. Why they don't investigate his family, you know? Why do they have all this money?
Why do his murder charges get dropped and we don't really hear why, you know?
I mean, I mean, do they know that this guy was killing people in the Middle East, civilians, and well, he wasn't killing, but he was ordering the killing of all these.
Well,
people,
he encouraged his people to go out in helicopter rides at night with their weapons and go night hunting. He said, "Go night hunting," which meant you see people at night outside, kill them because, well, good chance they're terrorists, and so.
I mean, like, why they don't investigate? I mean, this local news, this kind of atrocities, you know. Why they investigate the guy who's stealing like $100 in food stamps, or I don't know, like.
Well,
these programs help thousands of families in need, you know, children who go hungry without these programs, you know. And Republicans are cutting these programs, and they will cut these programs because it seems like they hate poor people.
Well, I'm sure I'm sure essentially they do hate poor people. They hate the potential power of the people generally, but poor people are a good emotional target to point at. But I think the answer to Cindy's question of how can the Republicans do this is this. You've got to look back at how the new Republican Party started happening. Back in Nixon's time, Nixon started talking about the Southern strategy, and the Southern strategy that he and his people came up with, and that was used by Reagan after him, and has been used by the Bush family ever since, and the Republican Party ever since, is to go into the South and get rid of the Democrats, turn the very conservative Democrats into Republicans, and do it all by going down there and start making hints that sound racist, that sound like you're in favor of segregation, that you're in favor of racist attitudes, and that you don't like those elitists, you know, up in the Northeast, even though you are one of them or something, in the case of the Bush family. And it was about playing to the hatred, playing to the cultural prejudices of a part of our society, and that's what built the Republican Party, and that's the reason Cindy, that's the answer to your question, how they can do this. They can do this because it is the pattern that they developed that was their entire success. And in the process of doing that, they transformed their whole party into the racist party, essentially. The racist party behind which was a business party that got what it wanted by pretending down at the lower level, you know, where certain people would encounter it, to be the emotional racist party. And so people just don't understand what's really going on in it. So I guess their economy is leaking away, that they're losing their social benefits, that they're losing their industries to other places because now the wealthy are free to pick them up and move them over. They're free to destroy unions. They're free to transform the society into a disempowered mass of people because that's what they want, and I think that's the answer to why all this is
Yeah,
happening.
that's
The Hispanics have been targeted.
The strategy, you know, like blame the poor, blame the immigrants, but don't blame the rich. You know, don't blame corporations.
Don't look there.
Don't blame corporations that they are taking your jobs to China or other countries. You know, blame the immigrants. You know, they are taking your jobs, even though many are working on the fields picking apples for you and your salads and. You know,
Well, the whole idea,
And-
Mexicans are taking away our jobs thing. Our jobs have been taken away by people who tend to be behind the Republican Party more than the Democratic Party. But these are the nastiest ones, like the Koch brothers, you're going to find behind things like the Tea Party and the Heritage Foundation. And these are people who don't want you to look at their attempts to deregulate everything, to destroy the unions, and to continue to have even more freedom to completely uplift your economy and transport it somewhere else where you can't get at it anymore.
well, I think that people should get informed about who are the Republicans and what do they
What's
do.
their
you know?
history? I think people need to look at that history of the
I
Southern
mean, how do they
strategy.
vote? No, like you know, they just cut services for people. You know,
Well, and they want us to all hate government.
like Snyder, Rick Snyder, the governor of Michigan, he cut the budget for the education budget. My daughter doesn't have now sports in her school, you know. That's a reality. That's true. I'm not inventing that or
Well, and
lying about this.
studies show that children are less able to learn if they're not active and they
This is
don't have this
true.
kind of education.
And he appears on these thousands of commercials that we saw for months that he wasn't cutting education budget.
Well, he did cut the budget quite severely, and then he replaced part of it, and then it was even higher eventually.
But he cut the budget, right?
He did cut it, and overall it is way down. So somehow the news media and even local NPR here in Michigan let him get away with it.
And we don't see the local news media telling you what's going on. You know, they just telling you, well, 20 people die and one people die here, another accident. They spend like the half an hour talking about accidents and crimes.
Oh, and art fair.
And the art fair.
Here's a funny thing at art fair.
But they
it's
don't
made
talk
out of pop bottles.
They don't talk anything about what is Snyder doing with education. You know, why is he cutting education, the budget for education? What is doing Justin Amash? I mean, what is doing? What are they doing for us, for their people? You know.
Yeah.
So well. I invite people to get informed. You know, there are publications, there are newspapers, the internet is available. We can find out what are they doing, how are they voting, and get informed and vote according to your knowledge of these guys. You know,
you had mentioned people getting really excited about their zombie be-ins. Where they go out and be a zombie in a flash mob of zombies. What an absurd waste of time. While the world is burning, I'm going to go be in a zombie flash mob. And I see so many young people who are constantly on their devices, and they have access to the world, and they're playing silly games, and they're constantly, every 5 minutes, checking up on their Facebook stuff. And yet, they could find out anything. They could be educating themselves with the thing that they're holding in their hand, and they're not interested. And I think that's this is a kind of absurdity. And of course, I guess that's one of the ironies of the world.
Well, let's invite to the people to educate themselves. There is
Be informed,
internet.
yeah.
There are newspapers. There is shows like this. Who we are trying to inform you about what's going on. You know.
And you can inform yourself, and life is an opportunity to participate in your society, make it better, make yourself better, and there are better things to do than constantly looking at what's going on your Facebook and participating in a zombie flash mob.
Well, they are having fun, but I mean, like, if you have the time to participate in the zombie mob, you have the time to demonstrate against these politicians who are cutting the budgets, who are affecting the education of your children, who are affecting your well-being. You
Well said.
participate politically, get involved in a political organization, and you can change things. You can change the world.
You can change the world. You can. And you've been watching and listening to OSEC on UC. I am Mark Zapatowski. This is
Pablo Bello.
And we are members of CTV. Our crew are members, almost all of them, of CTV. And we've been producing this show for 19 years. And this is GRTV, and we are CTV on GRTV. And this show comes to you the first, the third, and fifth Wednesday of every month from 8 to 9 p.m. live, like it is right now. And it's also rerun every Tuesday from 6 to 7 on this channel. And we are also on YouTube. And you can check us out there. And last word, Pablo.
Good night.